Buddham sharanam gacchami, Sangham sharanam gacchami, Dhammam sharanam gacchami.
அனைவருக்கும் இனிய காலை வணக்கம். மக்கள் மருத்துவர்கள் சார்பாக இன்று வந்திருக்கும் நம்முடைய சிறப்பு பேச்சாளர் சத்யபால் அவர்களை உங்கள் முன் அறிமுகப்படுத்துவதில் பெருமிதம் அடைகிறேன். It gives me great pleasure and pride to introduce our speaker. பொதுவாக நாங்கள் டாக்டர்ஸுங்கிற முறையில் ஒரு வியாதி அணுகும் பொழுது அதுக்கு என்ன காரணம் அப்படின்னு தான் பார்ப்போம். அந்த வகையில் நமக்குள் திணிக்கப்பட்டிருக்கும் இந்த ஜாதி, தீண்டாமை, இதுக்கெல்லாம் என்ன காரணம் அப்படின்னு நாங்கள் தேடும் பொழுது அதற்கான விடையை நமக்கு அளித்தவர் அண்ணல் அம்பேத்கர். அவர் அவ்வளோ படித்த பிறகு அதற்கான தீர்வை நமக்கு சொல்லியிருக்கார். அண்ணல் அம்பேத்கர் அவர்களின் கருத்துக்கள் எந்த அளவுக்கு டாக்டர்கள் மத்தியில் வந்திருக்குன்னா ரொம்ப மிக குறைவு. ஏன்னா நாங்கள் நிறைய வருடங்கள் எங்களுடைய பாட புத்தகங்கள் படிப்பதற்கே செலவாகி போன காரணத்தினால் சமூக புத்தகங்களை படிப்பதற்கு எங்களுக்கு நேரம் கிடைக்கவில்லை. நிறைய பேர் அதற்கான ஆர்வமும் இல்லை, நேரமும் இல்லை. இந்த அம்பேத்கர் அவர்கள் அவரே ஒரு பல்கலைக்கழகம், சமூகவியல், அரசியல், எக்கனாமிக்ஸ், கம்யூனிட்டிஸ், காஸ்ட், இது மாதிரி எல்லா வகையிலையும் அத்தனை தொகுதிகள் எழுதி வைத்துள்ள அண்ணல் அம்பேத்கரின் கருத்துக்கள் எல்லாத்தையுமே எங்களால் எல்லாரையும் படிக்க முடியாது, நம்மளாலும் அது சாத்தியம் கிடையாது. அப்போ இதையெல்லாம் தொகுத்து வழங்குவதற்கு நமக்கு நல்ல ஒரு படிப்பறிவு உள்ள ஒரு மேதை நமக்குள்ளே தேவைப்படுகிறது. அந்த வகையில் எங்களுக்கு கிடைத்த ஒரு அரிய பொக்கிஷம் தான் அவர் சத்யபால் அவர்கள். அவர்களுடைய பேச்சுக்கள் தான் இந்த தீண்டாமைக்கெல்லாம் என்ன காரணம் அப்படிங்கிறத அண்ணல் அம்பேத்கர் என்ன சொல்லி வச்சிருக்காரு அப்படிங்கிறத தொகுத்து நமக்கெல்லாம் புரியும்படி சொன்னார். இன்றைக்கும் அவர் நம்மக்கிட்ட பேச இருக்கிறார். அவரை பற்றி ஒரு சில வரிகள். ப்ரொஃபசர் பொனுகுபதி தேவானந்த் சத்யபால் இஸ் ஹெட் ஆஃப் தி டிபார்ட்மெண்ட் ஆஃப் ஆந்த்ரோபாலஜி, ஆந்திரா யூனிவர்சிட்டி, விசாகப்பட்டினம். He did his BSc in Andhra Loyola College, Vijayawada, and MSW in Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. Master in Anthropology at Andhra University, MPhil and PhD in the Andhra University, and in the same Andhra University he has become a faculty since 1994, and his areas of specializations are inequality, caste, cultural politics, democracy and human rights. He has published 47 research articles in national and international journals. He is an international faculty here with us. He has delivered various lectures at national and international level. To say a few, he has delivered a lecture at MIT Boston, Columbia University in New York in 2006, 2007 and 2013 on democracy and human rights. He has delivered lecture in UAE. He has presented a paper on Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Pune Pact and Cultural Politics in New York in June 2013. He has delivered lectures in Japan, Tokyo University, and he is a cadre of BAMSEF since 1999 and president of the Mullivasi Sangh, which is an offshoot of BAMSEF. So he has delivered lectures all over the world and all over our India, in Kolkata, IIT Kharagpur, Kanpur, etc. He has delivered lectures in 2 of our meetings already, and here we take the pride in introducing our speaker, and over to Professor Satyapal.
To be among the Makkal medical team for the second time, and this time I deem it a very good privilege at a meeting, in fact, organized to herald a humanitarian revolution called as conversion into Buddha Dhamma. My pranams to Venerable Bhante, who is present in the dais, another Bhante who is also in the audience, president of Makkal medical team, and my dear doctors who are really organizing this kind of a revolution. First of all, my apologies for not being able to speak in Tamil, as our doctor has very eloquently spoken. I really feel envy, but probably I'll try to speak in Telugu if at all you choose to call me next time. The topic which has been assigned to me today is to talk on the path to salvation, which of course is the path to emancipation, which Dr. Ambedkar himself has kept as a caption of one of his speeches. In Marathi, he is kept it as Mukti Kaun Pathe, which way is liberation. So friends, I want to dwell on 5 subtopics in my talk. First of all, I'd like to deal as to why it is necessary for us to convert. What is the necessity for us to convert? What are the problems that we face in the existing religion and in the existing social standing? So then I'll try to explain why we require a conversion. As a second topic, I will try to deal with what Buddha has done. Exactly what is his ism called as Buddhism. And I will try to also cover how Dr. Ambedkar has explained that Buddhism is the only way for us to get liberated. And my fourth point deals with the journey of Dr. Ambedkar with Buddhism. Because everybody thinks that Dr. Ambedkar has started his journey into Buddhism only in 1956 at the fag end of his life. But on the contrary, Dr. Ambedkar has been a Buddhist and has been living as a Buddhist and has been propagating Buddhism right from 1926. This aspect, in fact, I'd like to share with you. And finally, after becoming Buddhist, what is our responsibility? And what should we, in fact, do for our own selves and for the society in turn? So, my dear friends, I'd like to deal with these topics given the time that is available to us. And I'll try to be as simple as I can be in English, because had this been in Tamil, it would have been really good. Because Tamil speakers are really rebel rousers. Some of the most celebrated speakers in the world are from Tamil. I know that they speak very well. So friends, first of all, let me deal with the aspect called as water. That water. Yeah, thank you. As to why we need a conversion at all. Are we not happy as Hindus? Or what problems that we face as Hindus? So my dear friends, I'd like to straightaway declare that the religion which is now being called as Hinduism, which has to be properly called as Brahminism, because they have called their religion as Brahminism, not as Hinduism, because that Hindu is a word which has been used to call the Brahminical religious groups by outsiders. They have not called themselves as Hindus, because you don't find a word called as Hindu nowhere in the Vedas, Vedangas, Srutas, Smritis, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, Upanishads, Puranas, Itihasas, whatever be the literature that the so-called Brahminical sections they claim, they never have used this word called as Hindu. But it is been known as Hinduism. So we will understand it as a Brahminical Hinduism, in which there is inequality, there is inhumanity. The social order basically, in fact, deals with the inequality. And one basic feature of the so-called Hinduism is that we cannot show anybody, any Hindu, who does not belong to any caste. It is impossible to find a Hindu without belonging to any caste. So therefore, Dr. Ambedkar said, caste is the official doctrine of Hinduism. Caste is the official doctrine of Hinduism. That means caste is not a single entity. Caste is a collection of groups and they have been ordered into a hierarchy, an up and down. So that means Hinduism as a social arrangement obviously is an inequality. So in any arrangement of inequality, those who are on the top obviously get the benefits and those who languish at the bottom naturally be degraded, naturally be put to slavery. But in Brahminic Hinduism, the slavery is of two kinds. Of course, it is a physical slavery coupled with mental slavery. Why it has been a mental slavery? The mental slavery is that here the slaves are given an ideology, given a message, a spiritual message to be willful slaves. So therefore, Hinduism makes people to become willful vassals of that ideology. The slaves themselves offer themselves as, I have born as an untouchable, I have born as a lower caste because not of somebody's problem, not because somebody is treating me like this, because of my own faults in the past birth. So I am being suffering, my suffering, the cause of the suffering is my own fault, which has been committed in the last birth. So that way, Hinduism makes us slaves. Hinduism, in fact, does not create a human or a humane society. It makes us subhuman beings. The majority of Hindus are kept as subhuman. They do not have the freedom of thought. They do not have the human rights. They should not even talk about those things. So that is the reason why Dr. Ambedkar said, our path to liberation is a very, very perilous path. The range is quite wide, Dr. Ambedkar says. The range is quite wide. We have to start from the subhuman level and attain the highest human potential. So this is the range. So that is the reason why Dr. Ambedkar says, any religion should in fact be beneficial to the followers of that particular religion. And that is the reason why he says that if anybody gives a philosophy or a religious philosophy, it is not that we take it as it is. There must be a test. He says all philosophies must be judged by their social products. Whatever be the religion, the quality of the religion or the essential utility of the religion must be judged by the kind of a society it creates. So going by this way, the Brahminical Hinduism has not created a society at all. In India or wherever Hindus are there, they do not form a society at all. They do not form a human society. They form multitudes of societies in the name of caste. Each caste acts as a full-fledged society, disconnected society. The only connection between them is inequality. Or otherwise, you will not find any humane relations among them. That is the reason why even today we have a democratic constitution. We still are being influenced by the Brahminical ideology. We still follow that unequal caste system. That is the reason why we do not live as a society in India even today. If you take the 10 lakh villages in India, all the 10 lakh villages, the villagers in India, in each of the village, they live not as a society, but as a human zoo. We live as animals in a zoo. Because in a zoo, different animals are kept in different cages. The lions are different, the deers are different, the tigers are different, other animals are different. Likewise, if you take a compass and go to any village from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, you will find Agraharam in the same direction. You will find each caste living in a separate street, and you also have outcasts living in outside the villages. Uru and Cheri, you know that. This is a common feature among all of the 10 lakh villages in India, and we never find any single individual from a caste come out of his cage and is allowed to build a house in either in Agraharam or some other part of the village. It never happens, because we are living as so-called humans in animal Jews called as villages. This is the social product of a religion called as Brahminical Hinduism. It doesn't allow us. But this is the only religion where we find the God himself. It is always the male God. The God himself says, I have created my people unequally. So inequality in Brahminic Hinduism is the godly, it is a godly dictum. The God has decided that these people should live unequally, never equally. If they try to be equal, they are spoiling the religion. They are against their religious texts. So therefore, inequality is the foundation or the summum bonum upon which the whole society has been built up, which has created a majority of the workers, the labor caste, as subhuman beings. So therefore, my dear friends, of all the religions, the majority in this Brahminical Hinduism, they do not live as free, equal human beings. We have been destined to live as subhuman beings. This is the basic problem. And another important problem that why we should leave this particular Brahminic Hinduism, the bondage, the slavery called as Brahminic Hinduism, and come out of this is because there is no consciousness of kind. Human beings or any animal, in fact, no, it feels for other animal, other co-animal actually. The crows, in fact, if a crow dies, you know what as activity, they will feel bad. If an elephant dies, other elephants, in fact, they don't eat food for some days. They have those feelings, the consciousness of kind. But here in India, in the Brahminical Hindu society, there is no consciousness of kind. There is no sympathy. There are no feelings of empathy for the people who have been suffering. That is the first point that we lack. Other people do not treat us as equal or fellow human beings. Where we are not treated as human beings, how will we live in that particular condition? We don't live willfully, but we are being, in fact, made to live by coercion. By coercion. We have been suppressed to live like that. We don't have fancy to live as slaves, but we are made to live like that. We are fixed up in that particular cage. So therefore, there is no fellow being in this particular society. So that is a basic problem for us. If we are not treated as human beings, equal human beings, then there is no point. That's a basic problem for us. Second problem that we have with Hinduism is that there is no one to think about us. To think that in front of these people have been languishing as slaves. There is no equality and there is no freedom. I will come to those aspects later. What is the importance of equality and what is the importance of freedom and how to be free actually. So the point is, Brahminical Hinduism is a ruthless and misanthropogenic society. It does not create a human society basically. And the orthodoxy is callous and it is criminal, because every day, every moment, so many atrocities, so many insults that take place because of this kind of an order called religious order called as the so-called Brahminical system. That's why Dr. Ambedkar said, this Brahminical system is a socio-religious order based on graded degradation. You know about this particular thing. It is a religious-based order. So that is the reason why it is a criminal. And it creates no enthusiasm, no human spirit, no spirit of inquiry, no spirit of, in fact, human excellence, but it creates defeatism and pessimism among the people who have been languishing for ages, for thousands of years as slaves. It creates only defeatism. It says that you cannot do anything. This has been a system which has been there, piled up for thousands of years. And it also creates a kind of a pessimism. Nothing can be done, so just live as you are. So, in these conditions, if we think with a rational mind, we definitely want to be emancipated. But this emancipation comes not from above, not from anybody, but it is only self-help. Self-help, self-respect, self-support and self-emancipation. So therefore, we have to come out of this particular cage. We have to come out of this physical and mental slavery only by our own efforts, in order to be equal, in order to be free. So my dear friends, this is a very important aspect, very important necessity for us to, in fact, come out. Another important thing is that in the Brahminical Hinduism, there is no respect or place for individual. In this society, there is no place or no respect for an individual. However intelligent, however meritorious, however excellent that person may be, there is no place for an individual. Each individual is judged not by his or her own merit, but by her or his association with a caste. Each time I am being looked at as a member of a particular group called as caste, but not as an individual. So individuals do not have any kind of a place in the society. We may have excellent doctors over here, very efficient, but their excellence, in fact, always is looked at as, which doctor is he? They are not talking about your specialization. They are asking about your background. When somebody knows about the community, then all the merit, in fact, boils down. These people are. So the point is, an individual has no place in this particular society. We are all identified as groups. In no context, from our birth to the death, we are judged as individuals. We are always assessed as members of the group. So there is no scope for individual progress in this country. If at all there is progress, there is no due recognition to it. So that is the reason why, to live as an individual, to come out of the slavery clutches and all, we require individual progress. For that individual progress, we have to convert. We have to come out. And the third point is equality. See, in this society, we have no status. They have been affected by this virus. That's the reason why we find caste among Christians, caste among Muslims, caste among Sikhs, caste among the Jains. Even after becoming Muslims, we see more than 47 castes. All castes, who are in fact converted to Islam from respective caste, they still maintain their caste. They marry within the same caste. They bury their dead in the same caste-based graveyards. They worship in the caste-based mosques and dargahs as well. We see the same kind of thing even the Christians also, the Sikhs also, the Jains as well. So therefore, my dear friends, all these other religions, so-called religions, they also treat untouchables as untouchables. They don't treat us as human beings, equal human beings. So that means the release from untouchability is not, in fact, achieved if you convert to these religions. That means you have become lowly, not in the eyes of the Hindus, but all Indians. It is not a religion specific problem, it is a national problem, or it's an international problem. Wherever Indians go, they carry their baggage of caste along with them to all the places wherever they have gone, and that is the reason why wherever Hindus are there in the world, there is an inequality. So Brahmanism has been internationalized. So my dear friends, we need to get out of this particular thing. And third is that we want to be free. What is to be called as a free mind or a free person or say human being? The perfect human right. Whenever we talk about human rights, we are always reminded of Magna Carta. Magna Carta is a compromise or kind of an agreement that took place in 13th century between the King of England and his aristocrats. That means Magna Carta as a human right has no connection with the common man. It is only an agreement between the king and the aristocrats. They were rulers like our Jamindars. But that has been eulogized, in fact, that has been treated as the first ever attempt at human rights. I'll come back to that aspect later, but the first human rights movement actually was Lord Buddha. Because in 563 BC, if you read Kalama Sutta, the sutta that he has given to the Kalamas are town dwellers like us, people who are living in. So they are exposed to different kinds of thought. So many people are coming and then giving their version. So the people of the Kalama town, they were confused. And when Buddha came to them, they asked Buddha, Master Buddha, many people are coming and giving us advice. What should we do? Which way we should go? Which path is the path that is right path? Then Buddha said, he did not give them an advice. He said, who am I to give you an advice? You think about on your own. You think on your own. You experience it. You judge it. You verify it. You criticize it. You experiment with that. And if you find it good, take it. Otherwise, reject it. This is the first ever human right doctrine in the world. Right to criticize, right to verify, right to experiment, right to hold an opinion, right to profess a kind of a thing. These are all human rights, which were taught in 563 BC, but not in 13th century AD. So therefore, my dear friends, freedom means freedom of the mind. Freedom of the mind. Do we have that freedom of mind living in these religions? No. All religions, in fact, they say that you need to listen to what I say. In the words of Dr. Ambedkar, I want to quote from that particular Which Way to Liberation. He said, I call him free, who with an awakened consciousness realize his rights, responsibilities and duties. He who is not a slave of circumstance and is always bent upon changing them in his favor. I call him free. See, there are 4 aspects he says. One thing is an awakened consciousness. That means who is in a position to use his own mind. The problem with the religions is that they don't allow our own mind to function. They simply say that this is what you need to do. You don't have to think beyond that. But between 2 years, everyone of us, male or female, we have got equal size of the mind, brain, which is capable of thinking. But our thinking itself is conditioned. So therefore, that particular consciousness of the which makes you realize what is your position, that is what is called a free mind. And with the consciousness, an individual should know what are his or her rights. Rights are always conditional. With the rights, there will be responsibilities and duties. Know their rights and responsibilities. And then, people who are not slaves of the circumstances. We see many people, in fact, I know what I am doing is wrong, but my parents have told me, my the teacher has told me, see, because of the circumstances I have done like that, to marry in certain way is a slavish one, but still, I know that, but I still have to follow, compromise. No, a free mind doesn't allow you to do that. And if at all the circumstances are not in the favor of a free mind which is conscious tries to change those circumstances, will not become a slave to those circumstances. So therefore, we need freedom. Freedom, not just to be free for the individual, freedom to attack the system which is enslaving you and to convert the system into a equal system. That is the reason why Dr. Ambedkar in volume 5, in the chapter called as a warning to untouchables, he says this particular thing. He says, if you want to put an end to your inequality, you must put this system under constant fire. That's what he says. You must put this system under constant fire. You must always attack it. To attack that system, to see that there is inequality, Dr. Ambedkar says you need education. Education is not, my dear friends, as everybody say, Baba Sahib Ambedkar knows that there is a difference between the two words in English called as literate and educated. In English there are two different words. We all can be called as literate because we have academic degrees, we have technical degrees, or we have professional degrees. But not all literates can be called as educated, my dear friends. We may have our degrees, we may have our PhDs, but unless we behave, we think and we act with the reason, rationality and humanity that our education has given us, we cannot be called as educated. We can only be called as literates. But Baba Sahib says, you need education. What is the purpose of education? That Dr. Ambedkar says. My dear friends, I want to tell you the purpose of education in the words of Dr. Ambedkar himself. Dr. Ambedkar, again in volume 5, says that before any injustice or oppression is to be resisted, he tells things very, very clearly, no ambiguity. Before any injustice or oppression is to be resisted, the rock upon which, or the foundation upon which it has started, it has in fact formed, must be resisted and attacked. And he said, this can happen only with education. That means a person who is educated, who is literate and also becomes conscious, a person who is educated always tries to look at the society and finds about the oppression or injustice and attacks the very foundation of that particular injustice or oppression. That person only should be called as educated in the words of Dr. Ambedkar. That means whenever we write educate, agitate, organize and all, by education, Dr. Ambedkar means realization or being conscious of your position. If you are oppressed, then you find about not just the forms of oppression, but the very foundation of oppression, and then resist it. That only then you will be called as educated person. Otherwise, you will be called just as a literate, that's all. So therefore, my dear friends, we need to be educated. An educated mind always will become a free mind. So, for that kind of a freedom and for that kind of a liberty, we need to come out of the slavish religion, which is in fact suppressing us to this kind of a slavery. And the other thing is, my dear friends, the problem with the system that we have been living is that, which also has been covered by Dr. Ambedkar, why we need liberation, is that the graded inequality makes the slaves, makes the untouchables even to practice untouchability. See, even untouchables, they also practice untouchability. I think so, you know about casteism among the untouchables. So that means, being sufferers, being slaves, we are not fighting this, the kind of a condition which is making us slaves. Instead, we are again perpetuating the kind of a slavery. We are reinforcing the slavery. So therefore, my dear friends, Dr. Ambedkar says, to annihilate, you have to annihilate the caste. You have to annihilate the caste system. As long as castes are there, there will be inequality among the castes. As long as caste system is there, there is outcasts are there, untouchables are there. As long as untouchability is there, there is again casteism among the untouchables. That is the reason why Dr. Ambedkar said the only liberation is to annihilate the caste. Annihilate. If you want to annihilate the caste, annihilation, in fact, many translations they say removal or liberation, or in fact, they give a kind of a lighter meaning. Removal of caste system. But annihilation is a very strong word. Dr. Ambedkar uses choicest words, very, very strong word. So the point is, if the caste system is the problem, and if the caste is the problem, where is caste? What is the address of caste? Where should we uproot the caste and throw it away? Where is the caste? If the caste is a glass, I'll break it. I don't need you also. I can do it myself. If the caste is a kind of a building, then we all together will break the building. Then what is caste? I will telling you, my dear friends, casteism or a caste is one of the deprivations that people suffer in the world. One of the 5 deprivations. There are 5 basic, distinctions. 5 basic deprivations. 5 basic, things which enslave people. One is racism. Second is sexism. Third is regionalism. Fourth is linguism. And fifth is casteism. All the 5 are permanent. They always be there. Of the 5 discriminations, the first 4 are visible. Race is visible. Is it not? I can't stand here and say, I am Satyapal and I belong to the Caucaside white. I know you all laugh because you can see. Race is visible. Sex also is visible. Male and female is visible. Region is visible. Language, if it's not visible, it is audible. Then what about caste? Is it visible? Can you see caste? Can you touch caste? Can you taste caste? Can you feel caste? Like air? Can you smell caste? Caste do not have any physical proponents. Then what is caste? Then how Dr. Ambedkar asked us to annihilate this caste? What is the address of caste? Had we known the address, we would have done that. Then what is the address of caste? That Dr. Ambedkar said, caste is the notion of mind. Caste is the mental disease. Those who suffer from casteism, they suffer from this mental disease. So therefore, annihilation of caste means it is the change of mind. Change of our own mind, not to think of caste, but to think of everybody as equal human being. So annihilation of caste is change in the way of thinking. Change of mind is not in fact replacement of the brain. Change in the way of thinking. So change in the way of thinking is in fact changing the ideas about the caste, changing our own ideology, and leaving those ideas, those ideologies, those religions which support and also reinforce caste, leaving them, throwing them away like soiled cloth, and then come out as a individualistic, free-thinking human being. So in order to leave this particular menace called as caste system and all the baggage that it comes from, we need conversion. That is the reason why Dr. Ambedkar says, the people are not bad. Those who discriminate by us, they are also human beings. They also have a mind. After all, they are human beings like us. But the problem, Dr. Ambedkar says, is not with the people, but with the ideas, but with the dharmas and shastras who train them to treat us as unequal. This is exactly what Lord Buddha has said. Don't treat people. He is a Mahakarnika. I am really daring to talk before the Buddhist monks who have, in fact, now have devoted their life for the spread of Buddhism. Probably I am subject to correct it, Bandiji. So the point is, Buddha is so Mahakarnika, he treated both oppressor and oppressed in the same way, saying that it is not their problem, it is the problem of their thinking. They have been, in fact, trained to think like that. And who made to think like that? Who made them to act like that? Dr. Ambedkar said, you will have to apply a dynamite to these Vedas and Shastras who teach you the religion of inequality. He says this is a gospel of slavery, and he also says it is a not just an exploitation, it is not just a suppression, it is not just an oppression, it is a transgenerational suppression. That's what Dr. Ambedkar says. And if you are poor, Baba Sahib says, it is because of this religion which creates you not just poverty, but an enforced poverty. It's an enforced poverty. It is a gospel of slavery. It is not a gospel of liberation. It is not a gospel of humanity. So therefore, my dear friends, we talk about many things. We can talk about several things about the particular religion that we are living in. It is a social oppression. It is a economic exploitation, which Dr. Ambedkar has explained, which is a political suppression, which is also a gender oppression, because caste and gender are very closely related. This is the thesis Dr. Ambedkar for the first time has explained. He has told us that the very caste system has been formed based on the oppression of women. Based on the oppression of women. That is a thesis, probably I will tell you later, because it is only by oppressing women that the caste system has been born and it is being continued. Otherwise, males are free to have sex anywhere they want. But the clamping of this particular caste endogamy is only looked up very particularly with regard to women, not with regard to men. Men are free, men are given licenses. And there are separate castes formed. We are so cruel, our society is so cruel. Prostitute castes have been created for men to enjoy other than their own wives. Caste system has been created and it is being continued because of the suppression of the freedom and choice of women. This is the great thesis that Dr. Ambedkar has explained. That means right kind of real liberation for women in this country comes out only with the destruction of the caste system. That's what he says. So therefore, my dear friends, caste system is a gender exploitation. Caste system, in fact, is an exploitation where the engine of oppression is religion. So therefore, if you want to come out of this particular slavery, we will have to leave this particular religion. So we can go on with the kind of disabilities of caste system, but finally Dr. Ambedkar says, explaining all this, I also in fact try to quote the same thing to the friends who are ready to leave this kind of religion. And I am happy that some families, in fact, our doctor brothers, they have decided to leave this particular thing. They have realized, they have become conscious, they want to be free, and they also have known their right and responsibility. They want to show others, they want to be a model to the rest of the society, that they want to be free, and they also want us to be free. That is the reason why I am happy on this occasion. Dr. Ambedkar said, I quote, "It is now up to you to decide and discharge your responsibility." And he said, what you are going to do today, it has larger proportions, larger ramifications. He said, your today's decision will carve out a path of prosperity of your future generations. What you are doing today in fact, it has effect in the future. If you decide today to get liberated, your future generations will definitely get liberated. If not our generation, our future generations will definitely get liberated. We get liberated and our future generation also get liberated. That's what Dr. Ambedkar says. If you decide today and get liberated, your future generations will definitely get liberated. If you decide to remain slaves, your future generations will also be slaves. So take a considered decision. That's what Dr. Ambedkar said. Difference in the morality that the Buddhism teaches as against other religions. That is, in fact, there are two levels of learning morals. One is the authoritarian way, and the second is the democratic way. Other religions, they give you commandments. Other religions, they give you rules. Other religions, they give you the kind of a code of conduct. They say, I command you that you should do it. I tell you that you should do it. You don't have to think. You don't have to verify. You don't have to assess. It is just because I am telling you, I, who as superior to you, I am above you, there is an element of inequality is here. Gods feel that they are very superior. We want to leave inequality here and we want to go into another kind of inequality. Say somebody gives us orders. No. We want to be moral in a democratic way. All other religions, they give you morals. If at all they give you morals, they give you morals in an authoritarian way. But Lord Buddha doesn't command you. He says, you think on your own. Be democratic. Take your own opinion. And try to be moral on your own choice, on your own action. So this is the first difference. There is principle of equality in Buddhism, and there is principle of reciprocity. I will come back to this point later on. Principle of reciprocity. In Buddhism, in other religions, the salvation is only for one individual. If I pray, I will only get the heaven. If I don't pray, I'll go to the hell. If I do the tapassu, I will get the mukti. If I don't do it proper way, I will not be getting the liberation. But Buddhism is not. Buddhism definitely is individual's effort, individual's progress, individual's, in fact, elevation to become a highest human being, but it always talks about social. If you want to be a good human being, you have to have a good society. You create a good society first by becoming a good person. So there is always a relation between individual and the society. So this is what is called as principle of reciprocity among the Buddhism. I will come back to that aspect later. This is the very, very important aspect for which we have been looking at. So therefore, friends, there are scholars of Buddhism here, but I'll just try to be very, very simple in trying to tell what Buddha has tried to do. What he has tried to do. I want to tell you, my dear friends, among all the philosophers, Buddha is a great philosopher of mind. Among all the philosophers, Buddha has a distinction. He is a pragmatic philosopher. Many philosophers of the world, they gave some thoughts, they gave some ideas, they gave some principles, and they did not live up to them. They said it is for you to follow. Aristotle did not live up to his own theory. Plato did not live up to a theory. Rousseau did not live up to a theory. Or even Kant talked about some philosophy, he did not live up to a theory. Even Karl Marx gave us Marxism, but he did not live like a Marxist. Probably I think so some Marxists, they know about it. He gave Marxism, but he did not live like a Marxist. Okay? But it is not the case with Lord Buddha. It is not the case with Periyar. It is not the case with Baba Sahib Ambedkar. These are pragmatic philosophers. What they have thought, what they have given to the society, they have first practiced and showed us as a model. That is the greatness of these people here. That is why we are keeping them here. They are pragmatic philosophers. The other point is with the Buddha is, in fact, my dear friends, for all the philosophers, their base is some idea, some abstraction, some thought. But for Lord Buddha, his very basis of his philosophy is not some kind of an abstraction, but a personal feeling called as experience. Experience is the foundation of Buddha's whole philosophy. Suffering is an experience. Happiness is an experience. Nibbana is an experience. Enlightenment is a personal experience. Yes? These are all the experiences that one has to, in fact, look into. So therefore, my dear friends, the great change that Buddha has brought in the minds of the world is that he has shifted the focus of thought from substance thinking to process thinking. All religions, they talk about substance thinking. I'll try to be a little simple over here. See, religions, in fact, you take any religion, for example. All religions give us some kind of a worldview, some kind of a blueprint of this world and also of other worlds. Is it not? If you ask Christians, they say, this is the earth, under the earth you have there is something under the earth. Okay, if you don't tell me that. But on the top there are 7 skies, and each sky is allocated for different. On the top sky there is the Father, and you have Son also will be there. And when time comes, he will come to the middle sky. So there is a kind of a blue, so what do you call a kind of a sketch is there. This is what is called as a worldview or some kind of a cosmovision. If you ask Hindus, they will say that, in fact, this is Bhuloka. They will say there is Vaikuntha, the world of the Vishnu. There is Kailasa. There is also Swargaloka, Narakaloka, Yamaloka. They talk about different worlds. And if you go down the sea, by Chennai, if you go down the sea, what loka you will get? Sir? No, Patal is under the earth. Under the sea there is another loka. Sir? Yeah, we have seen many movies. We have seen our heroes, in fact, when the address is given, you go to Nagaloka, get that flower. We see our heroes, they just go down the sea, then there are Naga Kanyas giving a welcome dance. So this is a kind of a worldview that all religions they give. They say that these worldview, these particular places are permanent. The Vaikuntha is permanent. The Kailasa is permanent. The Nagaloka is permanent. The Yamaloka is permanent. The Swarga is permanent. But only your life is impermanent. You die, you go here, you go there, you go here and all. So that means this is what is called as a substance thinking. They say that things are permanent. Things are permanent. This is exactly what Buddha has attacked. He has converted the substance thinking into process thinking. He said nothing is permanent. Nothing is permanent. Everything is illusionary. You are based on what you think. I think so you have written that part, I think. Who am I? People say that, who is Satyapal? He is so and so, but this fellow thinks like this. So I am what I think. Or rather, another philosopher said, I am because I think. I am because I think. Because I have the capacity to think, I have become a human being. But many religions do not allow me to think. So they are not making me human beings. So therefore, Lord Buddha has converted the substance thinking into process thinking. He said events arise under certain circumstances and events also cease under certain circumstances. Nothing is permanent. Everything is in a state of flux. Everything is in a state of flux. Everything is in a fluid state. Today, a thing comes up. The moment that we see this moment, next moment it doesn't have to be there. It changes. It's not that we have been sitting for a long time. No. Every moment there is a change. Either in the posture or in the way that we are thinking. So everything is in a state of flux. Then Buddha said, if you are suffering, if you are wretched condition, if you are bad conditions, in fact, he said, they are not destined by God, they are only conditions. They are only conditions. If you understand them as only conditions, then you encourage yourself to change those conditions. So that effort, that freedom to take an effort has been given by Lord Buddha. So therefore, my dear friends, he has given us a kind of a scientific outlook to look. I'm not going to tell you about the life of Buddha, but what he has done, his enlightenment is not something like, a torchlight comes off, the light comes off and he becomes Amitabha, like he floats, no, nothing like that. It's not as he has been shown, nothing like that. He is a human being. But what he has done is, he has made a systematic scientific inquiry into the human thought and human existence. He is a great scientist of human behavior. That is what he has done. He is a great scientist of human behavior. And he has used scientific method, which we in fact think that it is based on Western science and all, but Buddha was using the scientific method. He has used observation. He has used experimentation. He has analyzed things and all, and clearly analyzed in such a way that human life, in fact, is a matter of scientific explanation. That is what he has done. So, he said objective. There is objective, observation, and we need to be objective in observation. You observe your own life. You observe somebody's life. Simple. If you observe, you will try to find the fact. You observe objectively. If the Brahminical God says, I have created Brahmins from my mouth, my shoulders, the kind of a creation. Brahmins say their God have created them from the mouth. Buddha says, why these people are bluffing like that? Can't we see their woman getting conceived, being pregnant and deliver a Brahmin child? And why these people are fooling us? No. What they are saying, there is a problem. He tried to make people think rationally. Observe. You observe for yourselves. You try to see that whether their claims are right or not. So systematic observation and experience. Whatever that you are trying to talk about, you experience. That there are two levels, objective level and the subjective level. There are these two things and all. That there are experiences of suffering and experience of happiness. When you are happy, you don't complain. We never complain when we are happy. But we complain only when we are suffering. Only when we are suffering. So the problem, if at all that is there with us, we say suffering is a problem. And we want to get rid of this suffering. And always we want to be happy. Buddha said, fine. If you want to be happy, if you want to get rid of the suffering, then you have to analyze how the suffering in fact comes as a result, not as a cause. Suffering is a result. It is the product of some conditions. Happiness also is a product of certain conditions. If you create those conditions, you will be happy. If you withdraw the conditions of sufferings, then sufferings will withdraw. They will go back. So that is how Buddha has in fact analyzed human experience into 5 aggregates. I am not going to teach all Buddhism over here. You can read because there are many good literature is available. We have our masters who are there devoted for Buddhist thought. They will explain us in deep. So, but 5 aggregates which are called as form, feeling, perception, volition, and then consciousness. They call them as nama, rupa, all these things and all. See, he gave human experiences as 5 aggregates. And he has further divided these 5 aggregates into 18 elements. 18 elements. Thank you. He divided them into 18 elements. And these 18 elements, he further divided them into 72 factors. See, my dear friends, Buddha was in fact analyzing the minute details of human experience and human life. What thoughts? He said, all actions are originated by the thought. He said, your mind is your master. If you think good, you will do good deeds. If you think bad, you will do bad deeds. That's why he said, your mind is your master. And be a master unto yourselves. Atta Deepava. You be your own master. You try to analyze your own actions. You try to analyze your own mind. And one more great philosophical aspect that Buddha has taught us is that all philosophers, they talk about cause and effect. Cause and effect. This we all know, cause and effect. But Buddha, in fact, rooted the intention also is the precursor of the cause. Intention as the precursor of the cause. If I bang over here, there is sound which disturbs you. That is the effect. The cause is my banging over here. If you hold my hand, I will not bang. It stops temporarily. If you want to stop this point of disturbance permanently, you want to in fact correct my intention to bang over here. That means behind the cause there is intention at the level of the mind. That is what Buddha has explained. No philosopher in the world has explained that. The root of all the effects is not just the cause but the intention of the mind. That's the reason why he has analyzed the human mind. So friends, there are clear-cut, in fact, as attribution to the science. It is not simple systematic science which Buddha talked about. He said this analysis has both objective as well as subjective things. Objective as well as subjective things. See, you analyze your mind, analyze your actions, but there is a human element also which science does not talk about. Our science does not talk about human element, but Buddha talks about a human element. Buddha said, biologically we are called as humans. Is it not? As primates, in fact, we belong to that particular phylum called as Hominida, and among that we are the Homo sapiens. We are called as humans. But socially, we are called as human beings. Socially, we are always called as human beings, not humans. Human beings. That means a person, however wise, however perfect he or she may be, he or she cannot be perfect all the time. He or she has to prove that he is a human by his or her actions each and every context. Today, right now, you may be good, but the next moment one may be bad. That means we always evolve to be human beings each moment. That is the reason why we are called as human beings. We try to become human every moment. It is not that once you are born as human being, you are ticked off as human. No. We can be very crueler than the animals. That's why Dr. Ambedkar said, an educated person without character is more dangerous than a beast. That's what we are sometimes. So that the point is, when once you are born as a human being, there is no guarantee that we are human beings. We have to prove, we have to correct ourselves, we have to check our behavior at each level, each context. That's why we become human beings. We have to become human beings. That is what is called as conscious being. Conscious. We have to be conscious at every given context. So that way, my dear friends, in a nutshell, I am not going to detail. In a nutshell, I will try to explain. Lord Buddha has given us 4 noble truths. You all know about these things. 4 noble truths. The truth of the existence of suffering. The truth of, I don't have to explain. But Buddha as a doctor has given some kind of a medical jargon to it. He has given the medical jargon. He said, first truth is in fact the realization of the truth of suffering. That is, the identification that there is a disease. Then comes what to do about it. What is the cause of this particular disease? As you diagnose, this is the diagnosis. The diagnosis is the cause of suffering is irrational wants. It's not. Nobody said Buddha. Some people say Buddha said wants create some kind of a suffering. No, all human. Buddha is followed a middle path. He is a rational being. He knows pretty well that all living beings have wants, need wants. If I am hungry, I have to eat. If I'm thirsty, I have to go drink. If I have other physical urges, I have to go. If I want to urinate, I have to go. So, we have wants. These are all existential wants. But there are certain wants which are called as irrational wants. Irrational wants. If I don't have anything to buy a cycle, if I want to own an aeroplane, that is an irrational want. So therefore, he has diagnosed the problem. Then the third is the cure. He suggested the cure, cessation of suffering. Then he has given us the course of the treatment is how to, in fact, you have to cease the kind of a suffering. So this, he has done it. It's a kind of a, what you call as an integrative therapy. It's a kind, Buddhism is an integrative therapy to the disease of the human mind and human thought, human societies as well. It's a therapy basically. Buddha may not be a medical doctor, he is a social doctor. He is a great social doctor. He has identified the disease, he has identified the cause of the disease, he has identified the cure, the medicine, and he also has identified the process how to administer the medicine. That is what is basically is true, noble truths. Then, if you look at these noble truths, they form into two sets. One set goes with cause and effect. One is, if there is suffering, if there is there are wants, then there will be suffering. And suffering, if it continues, suffering causes much more suffering. That is cyclic. It goes as cyclic. But the next two, the cessation, it is not cyclic, it is spiral. Buddha says that if you try to administer the medicine, if you want to cease your, say, unrelated, irrational wants, then it takes you to another plane of delivery, freedom. So this really needs an effort actually. So it's a beautiful lesson, kind of a, if you read yourself, take some pain and read yourself, it's a wonderful, in fact, analysis of human misery and human liberation also. Then the other aspect which I want to tell you, my dear friends, is that ignorance. It is not that learning gives us ignorance. Buddha says avidya, ignorance is in fact not being able to see things as they really are. Not being able to see things as they really are. So in order to be in fact wise, Buddha says that it requires right kind of circumstances, right kind of training, and right kind of instruments also. Right kind of instruments. Without an electronic microscope, we will not be able to look at the microorganisms, bacteria, we can't see them. That means with the right kind of an apparatus, instrument, when it is applied in fact with a drop of water or with a what do you call scrap of a skin, we can observe the microorganisms. So likewise, you need right kind of training, right kind of instrument. So these are the things that Buddha has given you to come out of avidya, to see things as they really are. Buddha said, right kind of meditation, training of your mind, right kind of a circumstance, right kind of a speech, right kind of reading, right kind of self-effort. It in fact takes away your ignorance and then presents things as they really are. So that means it is not simply as given, it has to be taken by us and we need to experience ourselves. So then, my dear friends, Buddha has given a methodology. This methodology has 4 stages. Baba Sahib Ambedkar said Buddha has not given us a doctrine, he has not given us a Veda, he has not given us some kind of a mantra. No. He simply he has given us a formula to follow, a methodology. He has given us a methodology, and that methodology, in fact, whoever applies it, they will realize, they will experience the liberation. What is that methodology? It consists of 4 stages. One is morality. Second thing is mental training. This simply he said, Sila, Samadhi, Prajna, Karuna. We need to apply these 4 things. Morality basically is in fact, probably we look at, many of you might know, the kind of a shilas. Panchashilas are basically the purification of bodily impurities. I shall not lie, I shall not steal. These are all character building. Shila. Shila is nothing but character. So when a person becomes pure by his character, human by his character, the next thing is, in fact, we need to purify our mind and thoughts also. Mind and thought. So that is what is called samadhi. You have to, in fact, your personal habitual defilements, we have taken it away. That is called, in fact, Panchashila. With Panchashila, we are in fact, that is the first stage. The first stage is to become physically, we need to take away our defilements, our habits of, say, being addicted to alcohol, being, say, lying. See, it's not, I'm just telling you very, very simply. Musavada has a long, this thing. It is not a simple lie. It, in fact, is a wrong kind of a speech, wrong kind of an action, insulting somebody, criticizing somebody, slandering somebody. They're quite, as I told you, Ambedkar has, Buddha has given 72 factors for each of the thing. He has minutely dissected each of the thing. So, when you become clear of your personal defilements, Sila, then we have to come to the mind. We have to clear our mind of these defiled thoughts. We need to think good. That is what is called samadhi. Then a person who is clear of personal and also thought defilements will be eligible to become wise. He can see things as they are. He can understand things as they are. So that is what is called the stage of pragya. Pragya. Buddha says, it is not just enough an individual become wise. It is not enough if somebody becomes wise. It is not just enough you train yourself and feel that I am fine, okay, I got my liberation. No. Buddha says always, human being is a social animal. As we say, human being is a part of the society. So therefore he says, a wise person always has to practice karuna, has to practice compassion, has to practice compassion. That compassion is, in fact, that compassionate living is, in fact, rationalizing one's actions. Okay, I am wise. By not just by thought, by also by actions I should be wise. Somebody may say, this fellow has read so many books. He is a great scholar. He can tell you a lot many things. But when you observe his or her actions, he is not practicing that wisdom in his actions. He is also behaving like as a lowly person or a person who is not ignorant, who is ignorant at all. Then what's the use of his wise wisdom? That wisdom has to be practiced. And a wise person should be able to help others also to think like that. So that is compassion. That is how Buddha said, if following by this methodology, you will create a kind of a society which is humane, which is democratic, which has compassion towards each other, which has a consciousness of kind, where you treat everybody as equal, where you respect others' thoughts, you respect others' freedoms. So this is the kind of a thing which Buddha has given us. So therefore, when you think about these kind of attitudes, then we will be able to change this kind of a society. This is exactly what we wanted. This is exactly where Dr. Ambedkar thought that Buddhism is the right kind of a panacea for us. Who want to get out of that kind of a Brahminical Hindu slavery? Baba Sahib Ambedkar has researched. He has thought for us. And he said, you taste this. He did not say, I command you, all of you take it. No. Several times he said, I have decided for myself. It is up to you to decide. You think over and take a right kind of a decision. He is not imposing anything on anybody. Dr. Ambedkar did not impose anything on anybody. Buddhism is not something to be imposed. Buddhism is not something to be declared. I am a Buddhist. No. Buddhists never say that they are Buddhists. Buddhists show that they are Buddhists. They always show that they are Buddhists. Somebody said, who is a Buddhist? They said, who can apply their buddhi is a Buddhist. So it is a kind of a practical application. Buddhism is a kind of a thought which is practiced, which can be seen, not to be talked about. Then you may ask me why you are talking so loud about it. Friends, I'm just trying to share my things. I don't come, claim any command on this particular thing. So the point is, it is to be experienced, basically. So, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, in fact, or even Buddha, they have applied this to see, an idea comes in the mind of one person. An ideology comes in the mind of one person. But that person alone cannot apply that idea. One single individual cannot run a movement. So then what Buddha has done? He has thought about this formula. He has, in fact, he has found this formula. He wanted to apply this formula, and he know that he simply cannot apply. He has applied on himself, and he said, yes, it really works. Then he wanted to give it to the society. There he wanted a team. A movement always wants a team. Then Buddha went to 5 of his old friends. He sat with them. He explained them. This is the problem. This is the analysis of the problem. And this is the solution to these problems. And this is the way how the solution can be applied. This is what I have thought. And this is what I have found. And if you get convinced with that, we will together do that. Take away this moment. And luckily those 5 people have accepted that. Had they not, in fact, accepted, probably Buddha would not have got any bhikkhu. He must be wandering for many others. Those 5 got convinced. Then he has got a team. Then Buddha said, they further, in fact, convinced other people. And then he said, Charame bhikkhu charikam, go, bhikkhus, go. What for? To make people think of their own problems. Help them to hem themselves. Buddhism, in fact, is called the basic edifice of the discipline of social work. Social work says that, when I studied social work, masters in social work in Tata Social Sciences, they said social science, that particular branch of knowledge, basic dictum is helping people to help themselves. But here, Buddha is saying, we will try to help people to understand about their own problems, and they themselves will come up with the solutions. Capacitating people. It is almost like, a Chinese proverb, don't give fish to a person, but teach them how to fish. So Buddha has exactly done that. And Buddhism, basically, the movement of Buddhism also is called as a movement of radical awareness, and also it's a movement of education. Buddha has given education to the people. I'll come back to that aspect when it is combated. All Buddhist monks were the teachers. They were teachers and doctors. In fact, public education and public health, these are the 2 important aspects the Buddhist monks have done. For the first time in the face of the earth, where the young people, they got convinced about working for the society, they dedicated their lives, and they have become the teachers and the doctors. That's why great bhikkhus, in fact, schools and hospitals have been opened. Right from the Buddhist thing, even to the Ashoka time. Ashoka has opened viharas as schools and also hospitals. So this is what, in fact, Buddhist propaganda movement has given to the people. People started thinking on their own. They have got capacitated, basically. So, my dear friends, like in the sense, when the karuna is being experienced, the other thing is, in fact, Buddha always wanted, some people said, Buddhism is a kind of a pessimism. It always talks about dukkha. It always talks about suffering. But Buddha very clearly said, if you want to get rid of a negative problem, you have to understand about that. See, problems are never solved by ignoring them. The frank recognition of the problem is the first step towards overcoming it. So if you are bugged with suffering, then we should know what is suffering. When we should understand what is suffering, the origin of it and all. So, Buddha says, the realization of suffering is not is not negative, it is positive basically. Suffering tells us how we ought to be and how we are. If you say that we are suffering, it says that as a human being, you should not be suffering. That means if the society is suffering, the society is not going in the proper direction. So therefore, my dear friends, suffering has a positive virtue. It is a positive virtue basically. Another aspect Buddha has explained and Baba Sahib also has clearly told us is that the problem of the society is colonization. Not the colonization like British colonization, not the colonization of countries and not the colonization of our properties. The problem is colonization of the mind. The religions have colonized your minds. The religions have colonized your minds and they have captured the social order. The problem with India is simple colonization of the mind and the capture of the social order. We need to decolonize these things. We need to liberate ourselves from that. And one more aspect, in fact, I want to tell you is that, my dear friends, we will try to show, what is called as a revolution by Buddha. The revolution by Buddha is that he has given a slogan said, Bahujana Sukhaya, Bahujana Hitaya, Lokanu Kampaya. I think that. But Baba Sahib Ambedkar explains that, Buddha has understood about the society when he was living and he found that Bahujana Sukhaya and Bahujana Hitaya. So you want to convert the society for the betterment of the many. So that way he started a revolution. That revolution, my dear friends, I just simply want to tell you in 4 points. The features of Buddhist revolution is the Brahminical Hinduism. It created the first point it was based upon is the secrecy of knowledge. Brahminical society did not give education to everybody. They kept education as a secret code. Education has been reserved. It is a culture of reservations basically. Education has been reserved to only few. But Buddha has changed that particular thing. Buddha said education for all, not in the language of the oppressor Sanskrit, but in the language of the oppressed, which is called as Pali. So Buddha has created a team of social volunteers. They were all young men and young women. And Buddha for the first time in the face of the world, to change the society, many in fact philosophers, they said, okay, they take the team only from the men. Buddha said, if you want a change in the society, if you want a change in the way of thinking, you will have to involve women who form 50% of the society. If you don't involve 50% of the society, what kind of a change you will bring in? So for the first time in the history of the world, for a social change, for a movement of radical awareness, Buddha has organized young men and young women, the Bhikkhu Sangha and the Bhikkhuni Sangha. That is the equality that is given to the women. Nowhere in the history we find that particular thing. Only after Lord Buddha, we find Jyotirao Phule, we find Pante Periyar, we find Baba Sahib Ambedkar involving women in the movement of actually the liberation. See, this is what Buddha has for the first time done. So, the secret code of education which Brahminical system has been found out, Buddha has converted into education for all through the bhikkhus. The second point what they have done is the power of propaganda. Brahminical Hinduism goes by the power of propaganda. They will try to tell you whatever myth they want. They can create, and the propaganda goes from like Goebbels. It goes from mouth to mouth. They never ask you to verify. They never ask you to rationalize. So this is the power, through power of propaganda, Brahminical society in fact created a kind of a slave, mental slaves, willful vassals. But Buddha has given us the right kind of understanding, right kind of thought, right to verify, with through Ashtanga Marga, Buddha has countered that basically. He countered the propaganda through Samyak Drishti, right kind of understanding. So that is the revelation that Buddha has brought. And the third aspect is constitution of a social order, an unequal social order where the Brahmin is at the top and everything is surrounded around the Brahmin. A social order, an unequal social order where Brahmin always will control. He is the master of the knowledge. He is the master of interpretation of knowledge. He is the text and he is the interpreter of the text. And he has assumed so much of a power which Michel Foucault calls as power through dialogue. See, if you are angry at me, I can give you abuse. You can abuse me like anything. But if you are a Brahmin, your anger does not give abuse. It becomes a curse, a shapa. So that means, if I am angry, if I tell you anything, that only becomes an abuse. But if a Brahmin puts some water in the Kamandala and gives you, that is also an abuse, but it is treated as a shapa. Even kings also get surrendered. That is the power of the word, power of the dialogue, power of the discourse. So they have created the kind of a myth, a society, unequal society where Brahmin is at the center. Buddha, in fact, has changed it particular thing. He said, he has shown Bhikkhu Sangha as the microcosm of democracy. Bhikkhu Sangha is the microcosm of democracy. He said, everybody is equal. There is no inequality, even should be among the sexes. Everybody is equal. He has created democratic and egalitarian way of life. That is the society that he has given, and he wanted the society to look at the Bhikkhu Sangha and learn the democratic principles from them. So this is the third kind of a aspect of revolution that Buddha has created. And the fourth aspect is the power of ritualization. The Brahminical society created everything into a puja, everything into a ritual. It is not happening, things are not going for me. Then they say, you are in a bad patch. Something has to be done there is some puja. Your stars are not like this. So you have to do some puja. For everything, there is some kind of a recourse. That puja will be done by whom? The Brahmin priest as a social parasite. In a Brahminical society, priest is a social parasite. He bleeds the blood of the people. He doesn't do anything. He bleeds the blood. He doesn't give you anything. He doesn't give you any knowledge. He doesn't make you a thinking human being. So, Brahmin as a social parasite, this particular model, Lord Buddha has in fact changed it an opposite. He has created the Buddhist monk not as a social parasite but as a social volunteer. Bhikkhu as a social volunteer. Bhikkhu, he gives you learning. He gives you thought. He gives you Dhammadana, and for his own living, he takes food as a dana. It's an equal thing. He gives you Dhamma as dana. He gives you knowledge. He gives you a way how to behave as a right human being. He gives you that capacity. And he takes from you as a reciprocity. So see the kind of a revolution. The 4 points which we see actually as a kind of a revolution that Buddha has done. One thing is, education was a secret code among the Brahminical Hinduism. Buddha is turned into education for all in Pali. Second, the power of ritualization, everything has been created into a kind of propaganda. And that Buddha has given Ashtanga Marga so that we can see the truth. And then social order, a Brahminical social order where everything is centered around the Brahmin. Buddha has converted this social order into a democratic social order. Democratic, egalitarian social order where every person is equal. Fourth is, when the Brahminical society is given a parasite, a social parasite called as a pujari, Buddha has given an alternative, a revolutionary alternative, that Bhikkhu as the social volunteer. This is what is called a revolution. But my dear friends, Baba Sahib Ambedkar also told us, Buddha has done that particular revolution, fine. But the law of Anika also prevails in a democratic society. If people do not support democracy, if people do not defend democracy, if people do not behave democratically even after becoming a democratic society, then it also will be changing. It also will change. So that means it is not enough you create a democratic society. You need to defend that particular setup. As long as the conditions fertile for democracy are there, so long that particular democracy will prevail. Otherwise it become going to, as law of, in fact, now how events arise under certain conditions, and evils also cease under certain conditions. If the conditions we create, if we all think democratically, if I think that everybody is equal, we all think everybody is equal, and we show mutual respect to each other, then this becomes a democratic group. It becomes a democratic group so long as we behave democratically. If some of us feel that we are more democratic than you, then it again there will be inequality. That means people who want the change also have a responsibility to see that the change is maintained. That has not been done. After Lord Buddha, there was a counter-revolution by Pushyamitra Shunga. If you cannot defend democracy, Baba Sahib Ambedkar has shown us that this particular democratic society also is anika. Then what all Lord Buddha has done, the revolution that he has done, has been countered by a counter-revolution by Pushyamitra Shunga. When Lord Buddha said, education for all in the language of the people, which is called Pali and Ardhamagadi, the Brahmins have in fact made a counter-revolution. They also, see, because when everybody is thinking, they can't fool people. When everybody is thinking, they can't fool people. When it comes to the aspect of love, they say that Christian, the love of Christ is so great. The love of Christ is so great. Whenever they talk about it, the Christ has loved the world so much that he has, in fact, he has forgiven those people who have been insulting him, killing him. He says, they know not what they have been doing. They know not what they are doing. So therefore forgive them. That's what he prays to the Lord God. So people say that it is height of love actually. They know not. That means they do not know what they are doing. They are killing me, but they do not know what they are doing. But they also can be forgiven. See, that means the sense of forgiveness towards those who are murdering him. That is what is called height of love. But my dear friends, Lord Buddha went a step ahead. He said, they know not what they are doing. They do not know why they are behaving like that. It is not simply forgiving them. I will give them knowledge so that they will not commit it again. That is the heart of freedom. That is why we find Buddha heads and shoulders above all the people who are called as great. He has put the human being as the height of the pedestal. Any person can become such kind of a human being. He has given license to every individual to progress and attain the highest position, highest potential. So therefore, my dear friends, when the kind of a society which Buddha has created, when it is not guarded by the people, there was counter-revolution. When he was asking the bhikkhus to teach people in the Pali, the Brahmins, as Dr. Ambedkar said, they have become imposters. They cannot attack. You cannot attack a thinking mind. You cannot deceive a thinking mind. But what they have done is, they all from inside, they became Buddhist monks and started teaching things in the Sanskrit. Then again it has become a secret code. Then when Buddha talked about, in fact, say developing a democratic and egalitarian kind of a social order, or the kind of a propaganda which Buddha has in fact said, counter the propaganda. But the tragedy of Buddha is he himself has become made into a god. People called him the 10th avatar of Vishnu and started worshipping him. Buddha said, in fact, he did not talk about gods. He said there is no use of God. If you can become godly, if you can attain the good things and all, don't have to think, you don't have to worry about it. But the greatest tragedy is Buddha was made into an idol and people started worshipping him. There is a Jain proverb That monk said, if you find Buddha, you immediately kill him. That's what he said. Because there is no person called as Buddha, because Buddha has died. It is now, he cannot incarnate again. He is a human being. But if you feel that Buddha has born again, you immediately kill him, because people start worshipping him. People start worshipping the idols. See, nobody has given a painting of Buddha. So that is the reason why each society tried to paint Buddha as their own. That is what happened to even Christ also. An American Christ looks like exactly like an American. White skin, blue eyes, hair. An African Christ looks like an African. A South Indian Christ looks like a South Indian. A Chinese Christ looks like a Chinese. Exactly the same way, wherever Buddhism has gone, those people have made, you see the difference between a Japanese version of Buddha, a Chinese Buddha, a North Indian Buddha, a South Indian Buddha, and also a Tibetan Buddha, and also a European Buddha. Because these are all figures, in fact, which were made by us, just to keep Buddha as a form of respect. We don't worship Buddha's idols. We are not idol worshippers. In fact, we are idol breakers. So, we don't worship them. But we, out of respect, we just keep some kind of a figure. Not to worship, never to worship, basically. So, the point is, the Brahminical conspiracy, counter-revolution, created Buddha as a god and started worshipping him. Then the whole Samadhiti has gone. People started thinking and then criticizing consciousness. They all started worshipping Buddha with this puja and that puja. Okay. And the third is the democratic egalitarian social order that has been countered. In fact, Buddha has instructed the Buddhist monks to simple living and high thinking. Simple living and high thinking. But the Brahminical impostor, basically, they tried to create the kind of a lifestyle of Buddhist monks into pomp and grandeur. This is the counter-revolution from within. And the fourth is, in fact, the Buddhist ritual has been complicated, and the Buddhist priesthood, in fact, has tried to take over as the chief monk, sub-chief monk, next monk and all. So this is what the Brahmanism has created, which Dr. Ambedkar, in fact, has thought over. He has taken out all the married mythical wrappings which have been there about the Buddha, and he has taken them away and given us the Buddha and Dhamma, with all things which are logical, rational and reasonable, which are at the original teachings of Buddha have been dug out, they have been excavated, and Baba Ambedkar has given us the Buddha and the Dhamma, which the original teachings of Buddha are there with us. So therefore, my dear friends, so this is what Buddha and also Baba Sahib have thought, and I now try to, in fact, turn your attention as to how Baba Sahib has lived as a Buddhist. I told you in the beginning that many people think that Baba Ambedkar has become a Buddhist only in 1956. My good friend, Srinivasan has shown me today's Hindu in Tamil. Ramachandra Guha has written, had Baba Sahib in fact lived much more, there would have been definitely a great Buddhist revival. Yes, definitely. But many people say that Buddha has lived, Baba Ambedkar lived as Buddhist only for 6 weeks. But the fact of the matter is that many people must have read about Dr. Ambedkar and his life. I just want to remind you how Baba Sahib in fact entered into the Buddhist thought and Buddhist way of life. This is only just a kind of a reminder. You all know that in fact when Baba Sahib passed matriculation, his teacher, Mr. Keluskar, has presented him the Life of Buddha, a small book, which Dr. Ambedkar later said, I really started liking this man. Buddha was a great personality. But he did not very seriously given a thought to that kind of a thing. When he was in Columbia University as a student, Buddha was influenced by his professor called as Professor John Dewey. John Dewey, in fact, he has started a kind of a philosophy which influences the American educational philosophy. He says ideas should be implemented as instruments of change. And when Dr. Ambedkar was there in Columbia University for 2.5 years, there was a movement among the blacks. There was a movement among the blacks called as social gospel movement. He was in fact living in an area called as Morning Heights. Columbia University, there are two areas are there. Columbia University is there in the central island, actually in New York, Manhattan. In this side, it's called Hudson River. It's called Riverside Habitations. And on the mountain side, you have Morning Heights. So Morningside Heights, Baba Sahib used to live for some time. That area, in fact, that area, Bronx and other areas, in fact, there used to be blacks used to live. There was that time a revival movement among the blacks, black Christianity, that is what is called as a liberation theology. Dr. Ambedkar also has become a part of that particular social gospel movement. He used to have many friends among the blacks. He used to discuss that particular thing with them. So these two kinds of influences from 1913 to 1916, when Ambedkar came back to India, he started very seriously reading about, Buddhist thought and all. And in 1926, Dr. Ambedkar was attending a non-Brahmin conference organized by Sayajirao Gaikwad in Baroda. There Dr. Ambedkar met a very influential Buddhist monk called as Bodhananda Mahastavir. 1926, Dr. Ambedkar met Bhante Bodhananda Mahastavir. Bodhananda Mahastavir basically was an orphan. He was converted to Buddhism. In Lucknow, in 1916, he started the Bauddha Sangha actually. 1916 itself he started a Bauddha Sangha, and he called it as Bharatiya Buddha Samiti. 1916 he started, and he met Dr. Ambedkar. Dr. Ambedkar was in company with those monks who always had a feeling that Buddhism has been the religion of the Moola Bharatis, the Adi Kudimakkal. So this Bodhananda Mahastavir also wrote a book called as Moola Bharatavasi or Arya. He said the Adi Kudimakkal and the Aryans. So Bodhananda Mahastavir was very, very influential. Baba Sahib Ambedkar used to meet him till 1949, till his death. He used to meet him several times. That was the first influence. Second, of course, when Dr. Ambedkar constructed a house in 1933, he called it as Rajagruha, the house of. When his wife died in 1934, Baba Sahib Ambedkar has become a Sramanir. I think so. In one of your things, Baba Sahib takes a stack like a Sramanir. He has become a Sramanir that Dhananjay Keer has not written in Baba Sahib life and history of mission of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. But Baba Sahib's another Buddhist monk friend, Ishwar Dutt Medharthi, he has written. They said that Baba Sahib has taken Sramanir for 10 days after when his wife died. So Baba Sahib started practicing Buddhism from 1926 itself, 1934 itself. Then, of course, we all know 1935 Baba Sahib Ambedkar declared at Yavala that he will not die as a Hindu. 1935. But after that, just as what Buddha has done, Buddha has started, in fact, for his mission of social change, he has started, in fact, attracting the youth. Exactly in the same way, Dr. Ambedkar, in 1936 January, he has organized a Mahar Youth Conference. Mahar Youth Conference at Pune, and whom he has called as the chief guest of that function? He called Professor N. Shivaraj. Shivaraj has become, in fact, from Madras. Professor Shivaraj, in fact, he was made the president of Scheduled Caste Federation in 1942. But even before that, in 1936 January, Baba Sahib Ambedkar has called Professor N. Shivaraj. Their friendship was very long. He called Professor N. Shivaraj, and Professor Shivaraj, in fact, has presided the meeting. That time, Dr. Ambedkar has not openly talked about Buddhism, said you all become Buddhists. No, he didn't say. But it was Professor N. Shivaraj who said, we have to go back to our roots. We have to go back to our ancestral religion, the religion of the Adi Dravidiyar. That's what he says. He's talking about Ayatya Das. 1936 January, Professor N. Shivaras at Pune, he was talking about the Adi Dravidiyar original religion, the original Sakya Buddhism. This is the best thing for us. That is what he was telling the youth at Bahar conference at Pune. In the same year, May 1936, Dr. Ambedkar organized another huge conference of Mahar conference. This is at Dadar, Bombay. At that meeting, Dr. Ambedkar called B.S. Rao, B.S. Venkata from Andhra. He called B.S. Venkata Rao and he made him as the president of the Mahar conference. And see, the point is what Baba Sahib is doing is, he is trying to influence the people in Maharashtra, and he also started his mission of propagating the idea of change in the south. He started Tamil Nadu, Andhra, and by 1935, some Tier youth from Kerala, some Idava youth, in fact, they were ready. And then from 1935 itself, 36 itself, he started extending he is preparing the ground. Preparing the ground, and in 1936, in the Mahar conference, that particular speech, which way is liberation, finally Dr. Ambedkar, in the last paragraphs, he says that, I have come to a conclusion that unless we think in the Buddha's way, that is the only way for liberation for us. And he said, Atha Deepa Bhava, in the last final paragraph, he said, be a light unto yourselves. So that means 1937 itself, Dr. Ambedkar said, this is our way. Okay? 1940, that is February 1940, Baba Sahib Ambedkar met another monk called as Bhante Ishwar Dutt Medhardi. Ishwar Dutt Medhardi. This man stays in Kanpur, and he was running a school by that time that is called Bodhpuri School. And in 1940, Dr. Ambedkar learnt Pali from Ishwar Dutt Medhardi for 6 months. He was learning Pali under Ishwar Dutt Medhardi for 6 months. And Ishwar Dutt Medhardi also has written saying that the Adi Kudimakkal, the Adi Kudimakkal of this land, they were originally Buddhists. So see the kind of a ideological parity among these people. Then it was Bodhananda Mahastavir. He wrote a very strong letter to Dr. Ambedkar when he wanted to marry a Brahmin woman. He said, Dr. Ambedkar, it's not good for you. He has got that kind of intimacy that he has written a letter to Dr. Ambedkar dissuading him to go for a second marriage. And then 1944 September, Baba Sahib Ambedkar visited Madras. Many of you might be knowing. Baba Sahib Ambedkar came to Madras twice. In 1944 September he came. There were 2 meetings where Dr. Ambedkar spoke. One at, of course, as a civic reception. Second was at Prabhat Takis in Chennai. I don't know what is his position now. He was, in fact, talking about Prabhat Takis. In that particular meeting, the representatives from the 4 states, they were there. In that meeting, Baba Sahib has given a list of Buddha Viharas constructed by Ayutthaya Das. 17 Buddha Viharas, he read about those things. Unfortunately, Baba Sahib did not know the name of Pandit Ayutthaya Das. But he came up with a list in 1944, said, there used to be a Buddha Viharas over here, and he said, what about these things? What's happening to them? That means he was doing his exercise, in fact. He came back. And this list, in fact, if you want to see the list, it is published in volume 17, part 3. It was there, actually. That list, in fact, Baba Sahib came up. He started in South India. It was published in volume 17. Then, my dear friends, 1943, Baba Sahib, if not, he was not in touch with the Pandit Ayutthaya Das. Of course, he died long ago. But he got in touch with the book written by Professor P.L. Narasu, P. Lakshmi Narasu. P. Lakshmi Narasu, actually. So, Pokala Lakshmi Narasu, that book, Dr. Ambedkar got in touch with in the 1940s. And Dr. Ambedkar himself got it reprinted. He wrote a foreword to it. He wrote a foreword to it, and he got it published, The Essence of Buddhism. Unfortunately, Dr. Ambedkar did not know about Ayutthaya Das, but Vasantamun later writes about P.L. Lakshmi Narasu. Basically, originally was a trainer of
Sakya Buddha Society. And there, 1944, Dr. Ambedkar writes a small piece as to how in South India the Buddhist tradition, which started with Anagarika Dhammapala in the Mahabodhi Society, Dr. Ambedkar was writing a paragraph, it's an incomplete paragraph. He was saying that what necessitated Anagarika Dhammapala to start Arya Bauddha Sangha, starting a Mahabodhi Vihara at Egmore, opposite Egmore railway station, Baba Sahib Ambedkar said, what prompted the initiation of Sakya Bauddha Sangha? He was inquiring, why, when Arya Bauddha Sangha was started, is the name of Arya, then why Sakya Bauddha Sangha was started? So Baba Sahib is in fact, looking at the kind of a Buddhist propagation and the Brahminical influx into that. That was an unfinished, kind of a, letter that Ambedkar writing to his friends. So then, my dear friends, I will come back to 1944, All India Scheduled Caste Federation third conference, where Dr. Ambedkar on the dais kept a huge picture of Bhagavan Buddha, and in that speech, All India Scheduled Caste Federation conference, Baba Sahib has declared Buddha is the first social revolutionary of the world. 1945 itself. And then 1948, for 52, Dr. Ambedkar visited Lucknow Buddha Vihara twice and spent considerable amount of time. And then 1950s, he has visited several Buddha Viharas, attended several Buddha Jayantis. And in May 1953, he attended Buddha Jayanti in Bombay. And there he declared, unless a casteless and a classless society, in fact, is created in India, there shall not be any progress for this country. And then 1953, May, in that particular speech, Dr. Ambedkar declared that I will devote rest of my life for the propagation of Buddhism. 1953 itself. 1953, he said he has decided that he will dedicate rest of his life for the propagation of Buddhism. You can refer that they are all in the volume 17 actually. And July 1953, at Aurangabad, that is in the meeting of Hyderabad, the Scheduled Caste, Federation workers and leaders, there Dr. Ambedkar has started criticizing those who call themselves as his followers. He started criticizing them in a very stern warning, in a very, very strong words. He said, people say that they are my followers. They say one thing here and they immediately go to the temples and make worships. They talk about liberation and in their personal life they live as slaves. They are not in a position to leave this yoke of slavery called as Hinduism. That's what Baba Sahib Ambedkar said. And he went to the extent of saying that I will excommunicate these buggers. He said, I don't want these, in fact, these cheats. He used these words, very strong words. I do not want these cheats. On one side, they say they are Ambedkarites. They follow me. They follow this liberation. But on the other side, they still follow the slavish methods. I will read out for you in the He said, I quote, this is my stern warning. I will excommunicate those who make pilgrimages to Hindu places of worship. They do no good to them. These are the words, unquote. This is Dhananjay Kir. In fact, you will find these warnings in page 447, 448. And you also see these things in volume 17. That means, today we see many so-called Ambedkarites, they say for material benefits we want Baba Sahib. But if you want to be Buddhist, they say, no, I don't want to be. We continue to be here. We want to be Hindus, but we just want untouchability to go. Many people say that. I know that. People want just untouchability to go, but they don't want to live. Baba Sahib said they are slaves of the mind. He said, if they continue to do that like that, I will really excommunicate them. This is a very strong word he used. And he said, if anybody wants to call themselves as Ambedkarites, there is no shortcut. They have to be free thinkers. They have to be conscious holders. They have to be liberated and they have to be Buddhists. There is no shortcut. This is as simple, as clear as that. So therefore, who want to respect Ambedkar, they have to come out of the slavery and become thinking personalities who are Buddhists after all. So therefore, there are no shortcuts, my dear friends. Either you have to be slave and you have to leave Ambedkar. We will not allow you to keep Baba Sahib Ambedkar photo with you. There is no shortcut. Baba Sahib himself said, I will bloody excommunicate who continue to go with the pilgrimages. Then I will come to 1954 January, some strange thing happened. Shirdi Sai devotees, they held a conference. And I don't know why they called Baba Sahib Ambedkar as the chief guest. Satyapal Baba was not born that time. There was Shirdi Sai Baba. Those devotees have called Dr. Ambedkar. See, such things happened to Dr. Ambedkar 2-3 times. Jatpat Todak Mandal, they have called Baba Sahib Ambedkar. In the preface, Dr. Ambedkar said, I am like a snake in the Hindu garden. I am like a snake, I bloody bite you. But I don't know why you have called me. He said, I don't know why you have called me, but you have taken the risk. And you have to bear with it. That's what he wrote in Jatpat Todak Mandal Lasnao, the preface. But here also, in All India Sai Baba Devotees Conference, Baba Sahib Ambedkar said, I don't know why these people have continuously pestered me to be the chief guest. They have been after him. He said, I really do not go for such things, but somehow I agreed. He came to the meeting. He started telling them, it is useless worshipping these Babas and collecting huge sums of money. And in that speech he said, you learn about Dasya Paramitas that Buddha has taught. And he gave them a long speech. He said, you stop worshipping these false people as gods. Probably you must have believed in something that must have happened. That is not the greatness of these people who died. They have not done anything. And you have been collecting lots of money in their name. So that is also useless. You either start schools, things and all, but try to make people listen or learn. And you should learn about Dasya Paramitas of Buddha. So that is in 54. October 1954, in a speech to All India Radio. 1954 October, these are all before October 14, 1956. That's what I just want to tell you. In October 1954, Baba Sahib gave a speech to All India Radio. He said, the very famous quote, positively, my social philosophy lies in 3 words: liberty, equality and fraternity. And I have not brought this from French Revolution. And Dr. Ambedkar said in the speech in 1954, he said, I have derived from my master, Lord Buddha. And then he said, India today, because there is a constitution, 1954, it's after the constitution. India today is being governed by 2 different ideologies. The ideology that is enshrined in the preamble of the constitution, it guarantees a life of liberty, equality, fraternity to every citizen. But the Brahminical ideology, which influences them every day, that denies that particular democratic ideology. That's what he says. He says, today there are 2 different ideologies which are influencing us. The constitution follows the democratic ideology and it gives us a life of liberty, equality and fraternity. And the Brahminical ideology and the caste system where people are living here, it denies them. So this is the paradox that Dr. Ambedkar says. And he said, in order to see that the constitution works, there must be constitutional morality among the people. He used the word called as constitutional morality. You will find these particular words when Baba Sahib said prerequisites of a democratic constitution. He writes that there must be constitution morality. So unless there is constitutional morality, there cannot be the working of the constitution. So therefore Dr. Ambedkar said, in order to create morality and democratic understanding among the people, he propagated Prabuddha Bharat. He propagated the Prabuddha Bharat. So in 1954 again in October in Bombay, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, in fact, he has said about his own experiences with Buddhism 54. And December 1954, my dear friends, Baba Sahib went to Rangoon. In between, Baba Sahib went to Colombo. He went, he attended the World Buddhist conferences. Rangoon Baba Sahib has given his 8, what do you call, program for the propagation of Buddhism at Rangoon, not in India. At Rangoon, Baba Sahib said, I have got a program for the propagation of Buddhism. I will simply read out those things. Baba Sahib, the first is publishing Buddha and his Dhamma. Second thing is introducing a ceremony for converting into Buddhism to laymen. It was Baba Sahib Ambedkar who has introduced the procedure of conversion into Buddhism. Before Baba Sahib Ambedkar, there was no procedure for conversion to Buddhism for lay persons. There was a procedure for converting the Buddhist monks. There was a procedure for initiation of the Buddhist monks. There was no procedure for converting common man into Buddhism. It was Baba Sahib Ambedkar who has clearly laid down the procedure, who has given the procedure for conversion of lay personalities. That was given as a kind of his ambition. And third is appointment of lay preachers to propagate Buddhism. Along with the Buddhist monks, there must be volunteers also to preach Buddhism. Then fourth is establishment of a Buddhist seminary and research center. Buddhist training centers. That is what Pujya Bhante was talking to me last night. These efforts are happening in India. Probably they are taking shape for the last 5 to 6 years. But Baba Sahib Ambedkar was saying that there must be a Buddhist training center and a research center for comparative religion. He said that is one of his things. And fifth is introduction of Sunday congregational meetings at viharas. Just like other people go on particular day, Buddhists also should meet at viharas on Sundays and they should go for a discourse of the Dhamma. They must exchange ideas. This is what Dr. Ambedkar said. And the sixth is establishing high standard schools and colleges. Because schools and colleges, they formulate the ideas of the children, youth, so that the perspectives of Buddhism will be imparted in the school and college days. And seventh is propagation of Buddhism among the youth. This is a very important aspect. And the eighth is very, very important. Baba Sahib Ambedkar wrote almost a paragraph on that. I really request you to read that particular thing. Baba Sahib said, the danger from Islam or the Muslims to Buddhism is not there today, but the danger to Buddhism from Brahmanism remains. That's what he said. And Baba Sahib Ambedkar said, a Brahmin is a Brahmin, whatever color or whatever party, whatever ideology he takes. A Brahmin, as a beneficiary of the Varnashrama system, never ceases to lose those beneficiaries. He creates that unequal system. And Baba Sahib says, inequality is antithema to Buddhism. So therefore, there is every danger. If the mission of propagation of Buddhism is placed in the hands of the Brahmins, there is every danger that they will misdirect it and misinterpret it. That is what Baba Sahib simply, very clearly said. The mission of revival of Buddhism should be there with the hands of the victims of the system, not in the hands of the beneficiary of the system, because they will not commit suicide. So therefore he said, we have to take the leadership with regard to revival of Buddhism. These are the 8 things that he told in 1954 December at Rangoon, Burma. Then May 1956 he gave a speech at Mahabodhi Society. May 1956 again Baba Sahib gave a speech to interview to BBC London, where Dr. Ambedkar clearly said, a text is called Why I Like Buddhism. Baba Sahib said, neither God nor soul can save the society. Pragya, Karuna and Samatha are the 3 principles keep society good and happy. And he said, Buddhism in all its essence is a social gospel. That's what he said. Buddhism is a social gospel. So therefore, my dear friends, Baba Sahib has, in fact, he has given Buddhism on October 1956, 1956. You know how many people he has given? On this day, October 16th, 1956, just 2 days after October 14th, 2 days after October 14th, today he gave conversion to another 3 lakhs in a place called Chandrapur near Nagpur. So I really congratulate our friends who has chosen this day. Of course, you're taking it a matter of convenience, I understand, but it's a very, very great coincidence that this happened to be October 16th. So finally, my dear friends, what to do after becoming a Buddhist? It is not simply, as I said, there is no fun declaring ourselves as Buddhists. What should we do after becoming Buddhists? I know some of you, in fact, are very determined. Some of you are very, in fact, are taken a considered opinion that you should become Buddhists, not just as individuals, but as families. I really commend you, and especially coming from a doctor's profession, it gives a great social message to the people. It gives an impetus to the people. It gives a kind of an inspiration. But when doctors, in fact, themselves have thought and taken this particular position, many people, in fact, will take this particular cue and definitely get introduced into Buddhism. This is also in tune with Baba Sahib, where Baba Sahib said in 1943, when we were talking to Lord Lillingtho, that is the Viceroy General, Baba Sahib said, nobody dares to raise an eyebrow towards a society which has 20 doctors, 20 engineers and 20 lawyers. This is what Dr. Ambedkar was saying. He was saying that the educated people will act as a guard, as a shield to my society. That is the reason why he was saying nobody dares to raise an eyebrow towards a society which has doctors, engineers and lawyers. So I really commend you that these good doctor friends, in fact, they started the task of becoming shield of the society. You have not yet become shields, but you are trying to become shields. I really congratulate you. But the point, my dear friends, is Buddhism is not simply something to be taken as a dress, something to be taken as a kind of a thing. Baba Sahib Ambedkar gave a warning saying that Buddhism, it is for the energetics and the wise, not for fools and cowards. That's what it is. It is for the energetics and the wise who can think and who can take up the cudgels of changing the society, not for fools and cowards. Those people who are cowards, who think that what will happen if I become a Buddhist, maybe RSS, maybe BJP, maybe somebody will come and say, bloody, you have become a Buddhist, I am going to take you off. No, you don't have to waiver. It is not for the fools and cowards, those who cannot think and those who cannot dare. Baba says that Buddhism is for the energetics and the wise. I really commend you that you have taken this particular great step of, in fact, this challenge of becoming Buddhist. It's a great challenge. And Baba Sahib also said, having becoming Buddhist, it is not enough that you become Buddhist, become great Buddhist, attend viharas, read Buddhist books and then be at home. Baba Sahib very clearly said, Dhamma is not passive, Dhamma is proactive. Dhamma is not passive, it is proactive. A good Buddhist is not a Buddhist who just performs all the things and reads for himself. A good Buddhist is that person who takes the task of propagating Buddhism, liberating the society. So by becoming Buddhist, my dear friends, you are becoming the soldiers of liberation. You are becoming the Dhamma soldiers. You have taken up that particular, in fact, you are trying to take up the war against stupidity, war against that misogyny, war against that ignorance, war against that avidya, war against that slavery, and it's a war of liberation. I really commend you for that. And my dear friends, if somebody becomes, in fact, enlightened, people say that somebody becomes enlightened, that is not the end. Enlightenment is only a means. It is only a means. We get enlightened to create a perfect society, to create a democratic society, to create a humane society. So this is the task before us. We need to create a democratic society, and for that particular ultimate purpose, Lord Buddha has strived. Baba Sahib Ambedkar has strived. And my good friend Punita Pandya was telling me yesterday, when Dr. Ambedkar taken the declaration, made a declaration at Yavala in 1935, that I have unfortunately born as Hindu, that I will not die as a Hindu, the first person to congratulate him was Tantai Periyar. He gave that news to me. I didn't know. I was not knowing that actually. He gave that piece of information to me, and he also told me that Tantai Periyar wrote, Dr. Ambedkar, I really congratulate you, and you must take up this particular conversion not less than 10 lakh people, so that it becomes a great event in the history of India. Baba Sahib tried. Of course, he could not convert 10 at a time, but he could convert it about 8 lakhs in the span of 2 days. But he has taken up that particular mission. So therefore, my dear friends, I am very happy that I am here with you in this very, very auspicious occasion. And a Buddhist, in fact, my dear friends, is always becomes a magnet. Buddhist is always a magnet, because a Buddhist always thinks. A Buddhist always is an inquirer, a continuous inquirer. Buddhist always, in fact, becomes an intellectual. A Buddhist always becomes a very good human being. So a Buddhist personality is a attracting personality. I promise that will create a new society. I really, in fact, commend you. I really, in fact, appreciate you for this particular task, and I am really honored to be along with you. And I have shared some of my feelings. In fact, I don't claim any authority on this, but I have tried to tell what all, in fact, of my little understanding. And I really, in fact, thank you for giving me this opportunity to be with you. And we see that this country becomes a democratic country. This country becomes humane country, and we will pull down this Brahminical system. We will pull down this unequal system, and we will see that the goal of Dr. Ambedkar, the goal of Buddha, the goal of Periyar, to see that land of Buddha becomes a Prabuddha Bharat. Jai Bhim.